Hi everybody. Hey, welcome to 90 Days with Jesus. It's my privilege to get us started off in this 90-day adventure as we walk through the four Gospels together. Just to give you an idea of what's going to be happening, each day we're going to be bringing you a new video that deals with one chapter from the Gospels. We'll be going through the Gospel of Matthew first, and then working through Mark, Luke, and John, and it's going to be so much fun. We got a lot of different folks that are contributing videos to this project, so we're excited about just helping us all to emphasize and to focus in on Jesus during these 90 days to see what amazing things He can do in our lives, and we're excited about it. So we're glad you're here, glad you're joining us. Each morning, those videos will post up either on both on our app and on our Facebook page, so I invite you to join us. Those should be posting up at 6 a.m. each day, so I'll give you an idea how to get involved. So, it's my privilege to get us kicked off today with Matthew chapter 1. And Matthew chapter 1 is one of those chapters of the Bible that people a lot of times give a bad rap to because it's one of those chapters that they can be seen as boring. But it's really not. It's the genealogy, hard for me to say, genealogy of Jesus, and talks about the people that came in the line of Jesus from beginning with Abraham all the way down through Mary and Joseph. And so, if you're like me and you grew up with the King James Version, you remember reading this and it was like, Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begot, all that kind of stuff. Well, really, it's an amazing list of people. And the people, when you look at this, are just really eye-opening to see who all is included in the genealogy of Jesus. So as you read through this today, I hope that you kind of take time maybe to look at some of the different folks that are in here. For example, there are 5 women involved in the genealogy of Jesus. And if you know first century Judaism in the world at that time, for that to happen, 5 women to even be mentioned in a genealogy was just unheard of. And even beyond that, of those 5, 4 of them are Gentiles. They're not even Jewish, and so for them to be mentioned is even greater in just the amazement of that fact and what happens in there. And you just look through those lists. There's people in here that you and I both know of. We think of King David, a man after God's own heart. But David was also a man who was an adulterer. He had somebody killed so that he could have that man's wife. And so, he was that kind of person. There are people in here like Jacob, who was a deceiver. You have some kings in here who were terrible, and other leaders and people that have spotted past and that kind of thing. And I think part of what God's trying to tell us in this genealogy is that He had a plan from the beginning that He was going to bring His Son into the world as the redemption for our world. And that was going to happen through the people in this line, and no matter what their flaws were, what kind of a scoundrel they might have been, He was going to use them to accomplish His purposes. And so I think that's kind of the story that we get as we look at this genealogy of Jesus. And then the last part of the chapter is the Christmas story. It's the birth of Jesus, and in that Christmas story, as we're talking about people, one of my favorite characters in the whole Bible is in here, and that's Joseph. I love Joseph because he was the guy who was willing to do whatever it took to be the man that God wanted him to be. For example, as the story talks about in here, he was supposed to marry Mary. They were engaged, and then he found out, that Mary was pregnant. And it wasn't his, and what was going on here, and how was he going to deal with that? And in verse 19 here in Matthew chapter 1, it says this. He says, "Because Joseph, her husband, was a righteous man and did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, 'Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit.'" Go on down there a little bit farther, and it says, "When Joseph woke up from that dream, he did all that the angel of the Lord had commanded him, took Mary home as his wife. And, you know, if you look at the life of Joseph, I think he's a great example to us that God can use anybody. You know, he can use the kind of the quiet, behind-the-scenes guy. We don't know a whole lot about Joseph except what we see in the Christmas story and, you know, the story about when Jesus was lost in Jerusalem when he was 12 years old. That's about it. But he's a great example of that God will use anyone. And all we have to do is be faithful, be willing to be used, and just say, Lord, however do you want me? What do you want me to do? And so I think maybe that's the story for Matthew chapter 1 for us that we can take from this. And so as you read this today, I encourage you just to think about that and just maybe say a prayer and say, God, how do you want to use me? You know, what can I do? I'm flawed. I'm like these people in Matthew chapter 1, but how can I be used by you to help you accomplish your purposes? Hey, thanks for joining us. Come back tomorrow and we will continue our journey together in 90 Days with Jesus. All right? Thanks, guys.